Hi everybody! For Black History Month, I thought it would be really cool to learn about some bold women in Black history. So I'm going to be reading you parts of the stories from this book, Little Leaders, Bold Women in Black History by Vashti Harrison. I'm going to read you about two people each day. So the people we're going to be learning about today are Phillis Wheatley and Sojourner Truth. I'll show you some pictures and I'll read the sections about these amazing women. Phillis Wheatley was born around 1753 and died in 1784. She was a poet. Phillis's literary skills were apparent early on. She published her first story when she was only about 14 years old. For anyone, this would be a major feat, but Phillis was a slave, so it was truly unique. Her original name, date of birth, and exact birthplace are all unknown. When she was only 8 years old, she was taken from her home in Africa and sold to a trader, then transported across the Atlantic to Boston, Massachusetts, aboard a ship named the Phillis. She was then resold to a man named John Wheatley, who purchased her to be a personal servant to his wife. The Wheatleys soon recognized her intelligence and began to nurture it. They taught Phillis everything from theology to mythology, an education that was rare for a woman and nearly unheard of for a woman of color. With the family's backing, she traveled to England to publish her first book, poems on various subjects, religious and moral. She was the first African American woman poet ever to be published. She corresponded with George Washington and the famous French writer and philosopher Voltaire, who called her a master of English verse. Her work was so powerful that abolitionists used it as an example of the intelligence and promise of Black people. In 1767, she was emancipated. Unfortunately, she struggled financially and lived in poverty for the rest of her life. She received a great deal of praise during her lifetime, but validation from white society was integral to her success, and it never came. She continued writing, but was not able to find a publisher in America. Her natural talent and body of work live on as fundamental contributions to American literature. The next person we're going to learn about is Sojourner Truth. Sojourner Truth was also born around 1797 and lived until 1883. Both of their birth dates were unknown, and these are kind of guesses. Sojourner Truth was an abolitionist and a women's rights activist. Sojourner was born a slave in upstate New York under the name Isabella Baumfree. Under the state's Gradual Emancipation Act, she was due her freedom in 1827. When she realized her slave owner was planning to keep her enslaved, Sojourner ran away with her infant daughter in tow. But this came at a huge cost. She had to leave behind her 5-year-old son. The slave's owner sold Sojourner's son to a plantation 1,000 miles away in Alabama. Meanwhile, Sojourner remained in hiding in New York until her freedom was official. When the coast was clear, Sojourner filed a case in court saying her son had been sold illegally. She was one of the first Black women to file a court case in America, and even though it seemed nearly impossible, she won. She got her son back. In 1843, she changed her name to Sojourner, which means traveler, and became a preacher. She traveled the country sharing her messages for women's rights and the abolition of slavery everywhere. Although Sojourner could neither read nor write, her voice carried far. In December 1851, she gave a speech that she made up on the spot. In it, she advocated on behalf of Black women who faced double discrimination of sexism and racism, and had often been left out of the fight for equality. The speech is known by its famous refrain, "Ain't I a woman?" She went on to encourage African Americans to fight on behalf of the Union in the Civil War, for former slaves to be given places to live, and for desegregation of streetcars. She was an agitator and a fierce activist for equality. So I hope you liked learning about these amazing women today. We're going to continue to learn about two bold women in Black history each day, and I hope that we can continue to learn about these women and hear more about their accomplishments as we move forward.